Welcome into Titans Today by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here with some surprise cut candidates for the Titans. Now, a couple quick housekeeping notes before we start looking at any names. These are surprise cut candidates, meaning I don't think they're going to get cut necessarily. I'm not saying I want them to be cut, but if they were to be cut, which I think you'll all agree there is a more than 1% chance that all 5 of these guys could be cut, it would come as a surprise. Now, one other quick housekeeping note, more of a disclosure. I got my wisdom teeth yanked out, so apologies for the Bugs Bunny cheeks and just overall lack of energy. Now, before we look at any names, we are in a sub battle with our new Texans channel here at Chat Sports, and they are out-subbing us this month. So if you want to beat the Texans not only on the field, but also between the walls of Chat Sports, hit that sub button, because if they get more subscribers than Titans Today, our bosses are going to start green-lighting the Texans channel to get more studio space, and that means more content for those down in Houston. Now let's look at our first cut candidate. This is Ryan Tannehill. I don't even know if it's a surprise necessarily, but if I were to get the notification that Ryan Tannehill would be cut, it would definitely be a oh shit kind of moment. Now, Tannehill is entering the final year of his contract, and June 1st is an important date. Why? After June 1st, if a player were to be released, well, you could split the dead cap hit over the next 2 seasons. So a 2023 cap savings after June 1st, $27 million. The dead cap hit right now is $18 million, but like I said, if you were to release him after June 1st, you could split that $18 million over 2023 and 2024, so about $9-ish million across the next 2 seasons. Now, Tannehill last season, he only played in 12 games, as we know, and it was not an awesome 12 games. 2,500 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Oddly enough, the best thing that happened to Ryan Tannehill last year was maybe missing some games, because it really showed his worth, because this offense sorely missed him when he was not on the field. Now, Tannehill, through 4 seasons so far in Nashville, it's been a lot of ups and then a lot of downs. But not a lot of ups, downs, okay? He started off fantastic. I mean, I was in the camp of Ryan Tannehill is an elite quarterback right now based on the numbers he put up in 2019 and 2020. 55 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. But the last 2 seasons and playing in even more games, 34 touchdowns and 20 interceptions and a huge drop-off in his quarterback rating. So with the cap savings of $27 million, plus what he has looked like over the last 2 seasons, you cannot rule out a new GM coming in and wanting to get his fingerprints all over this roster and decide, let's roll with the guy I moved up to get in round 2 of the draft. So speaking of Will Levis, who do you think starts more games in 2023? Is it Ryan Tannehill or is it Will Levis? I don't think Tannehill is ultimately going to get cut, although $27 million could be tempting if the Titans decide Will Levis is our guy. But for now, I'm going to say Tannehill makes this roster, but he's going to have a bit of a short-ish leash. I think Tannehill makes the roster and probably still starts more games because ultimately this is Mike Vrabel's squad, and I bet he would rather lean on the veteran quarterback than the rookie in year 1. Moving on to our next cut candidate, let's go with a fan favorite, right? Kevin Byard. So cap hit, of $19.6 million. You're going to notice a bit of a trend here, and that is with a new GM in town, maybe he wants to gut the roster of the veteran expensive players. Remember Tennessee asked him to take a pay cut earlier this offseason? Well, he didn't, and he's got 2 years left on his contract. Now, if you release him after June 1st, $14+ million in cap savings. The cap hit, the dead cap hit, that is, $13.6 million. Once again, you could split that over 2023 and 2024 if you release him after June 1. Now, over the last 4 seasons, he has been instrumental for this defense, right? He has been not only just a big leader, in my opinion, but one of the best players on this defense. 4 picks last season, 5 picks a season ago, 9 interceptions over the last 2 seasons. It's not a long list of names of players who have 9 picks over the last 2 years and have always been available for this team, which unfortunately for the Titans, who have been bit by the IR bug and the injury bug over the last few years, they're lucky to have some players avoid that plague. Now, overall, in general, I'm not a big fan of just cutting players because they've got a big cap hit, but they're still good, right? If you got a big cap hit and you suck, it makes sense. You really don't have to twist my arm. But if you have a big cap hit and you're good, well, don't you want to have good players? You got to pay players to get good players. Now, of course, if you're trying to enter a bit of a rebuild, I can see the logic behind it. But if there's not a clear plan in place of who's going to replace him, then what's the point, right? It's not like the Titans drafted a rookie safety in the first round and they want to get that guy some reps, okay? Then I can kind of see, okay, you want to save some money and get the rookie or get the young up-and-coming player some valuable snaps. I can see that. But you don't have a valuable or up-and-coming rookie, in my opinion, behind him. So why bother? Like, I would rather hold on and just pay him because he's a good football player. And I'm in the business of holding on to good football players unless the other path brings me snaps for a new player or a trade with compensation or maximum cap relief, and he sucks. But he doesn't suck. So I'm going to hold on to Byard for now. Moving on to our next cut candidate. I hate myself for doing this, but we have to do it. We have to have this conversation. Derrick Henry. This is tough because Derrick Henry has been the best player in this franchise's history. So talking about cutting Tractorcito is never going to go over well. He is going to turn 30 in January of this upcoming season. He's also entering the final year of his contract. Now, if you were to move on from him after June 1st, $11 million in cap savings. And if you were to release him, there is a $10 million dead cap hit, which would be $5 million-ish for 2023 and then 2024. So you could save some money. $10+ million is a lot of money, but I'm giving this a hard no. I do not want to see the Titans cut Derrick Henry for a long list of reasons. But I think the biggest one is you don't cut the best player in your franchise history when he is still a very productive player. Like, yes, you could save $10 million, but what are you going to do with that $10 million? You're not going to go out and sign anyone that's going to help get this team to a bunch of wins. So if you're just cutting him because you want to save $10 million, that's broke boy shit. Like, hold on to Derrick Henry. Come on. Look at what he's done over the last 4 years. Even in a season when he only played 8 games, he still almost got to 1,000 yards and put up 10 touchdowns. Derrick Henry is the exception, right? He continues to defy all the odds and norms and regulations for aging running backs. He has gone over 1,500 yards in 3 of the last 4 seasons. He will be the greatest Tennessee Titans player in franchise history. His jersey number will get retired. The list goes on and on. You don't cut him just to save $10 million. Ran, I know it's your first year in Nashville, and you want to get your fingerprints on this team a little bit, but don't piss off the fan base by moving on from Derrick Henry just for $10 million in cap savings. Like, if you want to trade him, you better get wowed, because I'm not interested in moving on from the greatest player to wear a Titans jersey just to save a little bit of money or get a day 3 draft pick. Like, I am passing on this altogether. Derrick Henry has deserved the opportunity to finish out the rest of his contract. Even if it might not be in the best interest of the team, he deserves it. He's done that much for this team. So should the Titans cut Derrick Henry? Type 22 his number if you want to see him keep him in Nashville. Or if you're a sinister person and you want to see him cut, give me a C for cut, I guess. But I'm typing 22 for keep. Our fourth cut candidate is Denico Autry on the defensive line. Again, the run continues of players who could bring a decent amount of cap savings to this Titans roster. He, too, is also entering the final year of his contract. Now, if you were to release him after June 1, $7.1 million in cap savings. His dead cap hit is just $2 million. It would all be in 2023 because it's so low. But Denico Autry is another player where you're not cutting him because he's a bad player on a bad contract, right? That's not the situation here. It is a long list of, I'm not quite sure what direction the Titans, or more specifically, Rand Carthon wants to go in 2023. Does he want to gut this roster to try and get Caleb Williams? Or does he want to keep some of the more expensive veteran players and hang around in contention and maybe be in the bubble sort of to get in the playoffs or in the hunt when December rolls around? Now, Denico, over the last 4 years, in my opinion, has been one of the most underappreciated and underrated defensive linemen in football. 8 sacks, 9 sacks the last 2 years as not necessarily a primary edge rusher in the NFL. The guy is one of the most, like I said, underappreciated defensive linemen. I'm going to pass on cutting Denico Autry. Now, this team, let's be honest, has the potential to be a bit of a stinker in 2023. But the AFC South is more of a stinker, and it's full of winnable games. So don't just punt on 2023. Like, if you can, win all 3 of your home divisional games, which isn't asking a ton, and go knock off either the Texans and the the Texans and the Colts on the road, that's 5 wins right there. If you can find 4 more wins from the rest of your schedule, 9 wins was a playoff team last year for Miami. So you've got a lot of talent on this team. I would not want to see them just tear it all down just for the sake of tearing it down because you think they might stink in 2023. My 5th and final surprise cut candidate, Malik Willis. Now, this is not a move to save any money. It's a $1.1 million cap hit, but it was not a pleasant movie last year. That was the Malik Willis show. He was just a rookie, and Downing was not doing him a ton of favors as a play caller, and it was a bad stretch, and he had no wide receivers to work with, and there are very viable and fair explanations and excuses to come up with. But at the end of the day, not once did I see Malik Willis last year and think, you know what? That might be a future Tennessee Titans star right there. He was benched the last couple of games in favor of Josh Dobbs, who came over from the Lions practice squad. And when Tennessee moved up to get Will Levis, that officially put Malik Willis on the hot seat. Last year, in only 8 games, 276 yards and 3 interceptions. I mean, he just looked like a fish out of water at times. There's a lot of moments where maybe a rookie quarterback shows some flash, some potential. It's like, it's not quite all there, but I've seen a lot of good stuff. I really never saw any good stuff from Malik Willis last season. So for that reason, if the Titans don't want to carry 3 quarterbacks on their initial 53-man roster, he may very well be cut. I mean, don't be surprised if a quarterback, even just a backup quarterback, gets hurt in training camp or preseason, and they pick up the phone and go, can we get Malik Willis because we like him more than our current practice squad quarterback? Tennessee may pounce at a trade, but if they don't get that call and they don't think Malik Willis is the 53rd best player on this roster and they don't want to carry him just for the sake of carrying him, he might be this year's Kellen Mond. Remember last year when the Vikings waived Kellen Mond after one season when he too was a 3rd-round pick? It might be a carbon copy of 3rd-round pick, 1 season, moved on, new GM came in town, and wasn't going to stick by the old GM's draft pick. So do not be surprised. I don't even know if I can really include Malik Willis as a surprise cut candidate, right? Because there is a lot of writing on the wall that does not bode well for the former Liberty Flame quarterback. So who is your cut candidate? Is it one of the 5 guys we identified on today's show? Is it someone else? I'm curious who your cut candidate is for the Titans. Let me know in the comments section. Thank you all so much for tuning in and hanging out with us. Apologies for, the suboptimal energy level. Like I said at the start of the show, I got my wisdom teeth pulled, and some people only take like 24 hours to recover from that. I was not one of those people. It has been an absolute bender of a weekend, and not in a good way. A lot of soup and a lot of pudding. I also, one quick thing. Screw Whole Foods, because they only have vegan pudding, and that was the worst thing to wake up to coming out of surgery. So for that reason, Whole Foods, I'm cutting them from my grocery store list. All right, that's going to do it for us. We'll see everyone later.